Yeah, so over here at this place, they had this German Shepherd, you know, from a young age, and like I seen it when it was a young pup. It was a playful dog. It was a good dog for about maybe a week or two, you know, and it's kind of strange. Maybe it was maybe I'm the cause of it. I'm not sure. I remember sort of playing with that dog as a young kid, and I stepped on his foot or something, and all of a sudden that after I hurt that dog, I stepped on its foot by accident. It never treated me nice again after that. After I stepped on its foot, that dog just had such a hate towards me ever since, and I never understood it. I never got it, you know. But it wasn't just me he hated. He that dog, like, it had such a mean streak in it. It was chained up all the time, big giant tractor chain, and it was just the most vicious dog you ever seen tied up in an alley. Like, all the kids down in this neighborhood, they were all scared of this dog, and rightfully so, because you go down here and you're walking down the alley, and you get to this, it would be like an open, it was like an open yard. It was just an open yard with this dog chained up there. And that dog, everybody you seen coming through here, it would just it'd choke itself. It was like it wanted to kill everybody that went through here. It was insane. I've never seen another animal like it ever before or since. It was nuts. That dog was out of this world, man. But they never got broke into. I'll tell you that. That house never got broke into around here, man. And then right across from there was, over here was a white fence. And old person lived there. An old person lived there. And then right next door here, I think it was this one right here, this garage is here, is where Johnny lived. My good friend Johnny Serrano. He was from Chile. He was from Chile, and he had a cousin named Maxie. I still remember all this stuff, you know. And his older sister, his sister's name was Peely. Who has a name like Peely, right? Yeah, that's like totally far out there, you know. But there was Johnny and Peely. That's how we remember them as, you know, Johnny and Peely. And their dad worked hard. Their dad worked at IPSCO, and he worked hard all the time. He went there. He worked a hard job. And yeah, Johnny and Peely. Johnny was the coolest guy in the neighborhood. He was definitely the coolest guy in the neighborhood. And everybody wanted to hang out with Johnny and be around him all the time and be like him and everything, you know. And it's just weird because, like, what made people attracted to hanging out with him? It's really hard to explain, you know. Like, he didn't really do much of anything. Like, he really didn't do much of hardly anything, except he just looked cool. The way his eyes looked at you, the way his jawline was designed, the way his nose went, the way his hair went, like, he just looked so cool. You didn't have to say anything. You just looked at him and was like, holy shit, that guy looks fucking cool. Who's this? Who's that guy? Who's this guy? You know, he just had that sort of aura about him like no other kid did. You know, where he didn't have to do anything. He was just really fucking cool. You just wanted to know this guy, be around this guy, you know. So yeah, I tried to hang out with him any chance I got, every opportunity I got. I was always trying to come over, hang out with Johnny, and he's probably the one that introduced me to wrestling as a kid, you know. The other kids talked about wrestling and you know, imitated wrestling in the park and that, but I never really like watched it for the first time until like I was at Johnny's place. It was late in the evening one time, and I remember watching a grueling match on there, man. It was on VHS back in the day. I don't know where he got it or how he got it, but it was like a chain match, a strap match between like Roddy Piper and like I think it might have been what's that guy's name? Greg the Hammer Valentine. And like it was something like those two guys. And those guys just look mean as they just look so mean, those guys. And in this match, they beat each other up. They were just red. Their faces, their bodies weren't even white anymore. They were like red, like beaten, like red, like lobsters. It was one of the craziest things I ever seen. You know, and I think that's what first really got me into watching wrestling. You know, I never seen anything like that. And then I was interested in watching wrestling from then on. You know, so yeah, we had Jeffrey and Tiffany, we had Amanda down there, we had Michael and Donnie Orkloff there, we had Johnny and Peely over here, right? And like, let's keep going. We haven't gotten to my house yet. And then right here was another old person. There's an old person that lived in this place here. And I always respected them because they treated my cat with care. I remember my cat would go over next door and visit next door a lot. So yeah, that person was good. And yeah, over here was Corey Mitchell and his brother Ryan Mitchell. Those two guys were trouble too. Corey and Michael were always hanging out together because they're both getting into trouble together, these two. You know, they're always hanging out, these two, getting into trouble and trying to get the rest of us in trouble. And they were both went to Imperial, but they got themselves into so much trouble in that school that they separated them. The school board or whatever was like, you know what, one of you has to leave. We're not keeping you both here. So they moved Michael from Imperial and they put him into St. Michael because him and Corey were getting into too much trouble together over there. And eventually Corey Mitchell and his family, like they just moved, like they just had to get out of here because they were getting a bad rep. Like his mom was like one of the biggest loudmouths on the block. Sorry to say it, but I'll say it. You know, she had a mouth like it was like you'd hear it, you know.
Corey, get your ass right now.
You know, you just hear, you know, you knew it was time for Corey to go home when you heard his mom. Because you could not fucking deny that. You hear it, your whole neighborhood now. And this is where I live. This is my house over here. God, no, maybe we can. This is my old garage here. This is when I first moved into the city here from the farm. I was on a farm before this kind of thing. And this is the house here. This is the yard here. Go over the fence. See? We had a big apple tree that was in the backyard. I used to play on it all the time. Out back here. See, like right over there would have been like a big apple tree. And I thought, I pretended it was the Millennium Falcon from like Star Wars. You know, like Han Solo and Skywalker. I pretended that was my ship. That was the Millennium Falcon right there. and I had a swing set. Right here I had a swing set, and I sat on there, and I swing sat all the time. I had a doghouse back there that like never was used, but it was from the previous owner, a doghouse. I used to sit on it and play on it, you know, and I used to pretend that doghouse was like I was the A-team, you know, and like that was my van, that was our ride, that was our A-team vehicle, you know, and I would pretend that was, you know, after I watched A-team on TV, I'd come out back and I'd pretend on my doghouse that I'm the A-team, you know. And we got the swing set, which is like another set of vehicles, you know, if I needed them, airplanes and stuff. And in the corner here, I had a sandbox. I don't know if you can see over the top here or not, but right down here, I had a sandbox, and I played in this sandbox like all the time, lots. And my cat would go and make a mess in my sandbox, you know, a bunch of times, you know. So, you know, had to be careful when you're playing in the sand once in a while. And yeah, that was my window to my house there on my bedroom. The window right there, you can see it. That was my bedroom right there in that corner there. That was my bedroom there. And the water would drip off the eaves trough beside the house in 3 different places, and I put cups on 3 different spots to catch the water, so that, you know, if I'm in the backyard playing and I got thirsty, I always have a supply of water. If I couldn't go in the house to get some water, I had water outside I could get. So, and I remember that 1 tin can had the best water in it, and the other 2 had, like, I don't know, water wasn't as good in the other 2 cans as it was in the 3rd one. So, yeah. And Brian Fry, I remember one time, I'll tell you a good story here. Brian Fry was over here, and we'd get into trouble, you know. And one day we were throwing shingles back and forth. I had my girlfriend here too at the time, my girlfriend Crystal, from on the corner over here, Crystal Morshawn? I forget her last name. Her name was Crystal, and I had my first kiss with her. I was to say that now, you know. She taught me how to kiss, and then, man, I loved kissing. Yeah. She was a good girlfriend. And Brian was here that one day, and we were getting into a fight. Maybe it was over the woman, maybe trying to get her attention or whatever. And he was on, I forget which roof it was. I think he was on the house roof, and I was on the garage roof, and we were throwing shingles at each other back and forth. And we were having fun, right? You know, and we did that the one day. And then he had to go home. It got late. He had to go home. And then the next day, he comes back over with his buddy Jeremy. So then it's like Brian and Jeremy on that roof ripping shingles off and throwing them at me on this roof, which it was me and some. I had 1 or 2 kids helping me on this roof rip the shingles off the garage and throw them back over there. And like, by the time my mom came home from work, we had like this backyard just covered in shingles all over the place, and yeah, what a mess it was. I got in a lot of trouble that day. That was one of those sort of days. And yeah, that was my backyard. I would come out from this backyard, and the corner house here on this corner here was where all the Longmans hung out. All the Longmans hung out here, and I still know them, you know. But when I was a young kid, they scared me. You know, like these dudes, they look scary. They were tough-looking dudes, man. It was like a family of brothers. It was like 4 or 5 brothers, you know. And then they all had their friends and stuff, and like, yeah, they were a scary bunch of dudes, man. And then yeah, on this side here was Crystal used to live here, so like I was surrounded by kids growing up. I grew up here. I had kids and friends everywhere you looked and turned, you know? I had a great time growing up out here. It was awesome. That's Imperial School, Imperial Park. And we might go for a closer look over there later.